Welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm Ryan, and I will be one of your MCs alongside my colleague Sherelle. And we've got an incredible session, and it is in celebration of the Global Accessibility Awareness Day, GAAD for short. And really, this is a day that is dedicated to promoting digital access and inclusion for the more than 1 billion people with disabilities. GAAD is a reminder that accessibility is not just a feature, it's really a fundamental right, whether it's designing websites, developing applications, creating content, building physical spaces. We all have a role to play in making the world a more inclusive place. In line with that, as many of you may know, Microsoft's mission is to empower every person in every organization on the planet to achieve more. And accessibility is a core concept that we think about when developing our products in the different types of communities that we are building for in support of empowering that mission.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. So before we get there, we want to have Microsoft's Director of AI, Collaboration and Security, Jesse Washington. He's located in our U.S. Health and Life Sciences. We want him to share some words about how Microsoft thinks about accessibility and what the future of accessibility in our products may look like.
Welcome, everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with everybody. So, what I want to take a little bit of time to talk about is why accessibility is important to Microsoft. And honestly, to me personally, I'm a proud papa of a teenage son who's differently abled. And I love the opportunity to work with Microsoft in this field and provide others opportunities to better take advantage of the opportunity to do more. So again, thank you for joining today's conversation. Accessibility is it's a cornerstone of Microsoft's mission to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. Accessibility isn't just a set of features; it's a fundamental part of how we build technology. It's about designing experiences that include everyone from the start. 1.3 billion people in the world have a disability, and 70% of disabilities are non apparent. One in five people identify the neurodivergent and or identified as a neurodivergent, and the number is increasing with younger generations. For many of us, technology makes things easier, but for people with disabilities, it makes things possible. As we enter the era of AI with tools like Copilot, our commitment to accessibility becomes even more critical. AI has the power to unlock possibilities for people with disabilities, but only if we build it responsibly and inclusively. That's why we embed accessibility in every layer of strategy, from product development to how we empower our customers and partners. Our goal with this Fireside Chat is to generate a greater understanding of the importance of accessibility and inclusion. Sherelle, Ryan?
Jesse, we appreciate you sharing how Microsoft is empowering every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. I know accessibility and inclusion is a core pillar to our culture at Microsoft, and it is really so meaningful to all of us.
And so now let's transition to the main portion of our event. We have a phenomenal guest over here, Laurie Allen. She's one of our global accessibility leads at Microsoft. We'll let her introduce herself. But Laurie, thank you so much for joining us. And for anyone who does not know Laurie, she works with Microsoft's healthcare and life sciences customers every single day to think about how they can incorporate inclusion and accessibility into their work that they're doing for their employees and their customers. So, Laurie, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about yourself, your background, then we can get started.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan and Cheryl, and it's great to be with all of you today. So I'm Laurie Allen. As Ryan mentioned, I lead our global commercial accessibility program here at Microsoft. And a little bit about my background and how I got here. I've been in tech for, 30 years. I hate to say it, but it's true. And then 10 years ago, I had a spinal cord injury and became a quadriplegic. So I have some arm function. I don't have any hand function at all, and I use a wheelchair. And the only thing that didn't dramatically change about my life when I had my accident was my ability to do my job because of assistive technology. I became reliant on it in an instant. And my job during that transition was quite literally a lifeline for me. And for a long time, I really took for granted what was empowering me to continue doing my job until a few years ago, I had this epiphany. What is this assistive tech? Who built it and why? And why am I not part of the solution? And I knew at that point I had to pivot my career. And I didn't know what that was going to look like yet. So I started learning about accessibility. I started learning about web content accessibility guideline standards. And I started following companies who were leading the way in this space. And I kept coming back over and over again to Microsoft. And I was fortunate to make a connection with a woman who was working in accessibility for gaming. And I stayed in touch with her for a few months. And this position that I'm in now opened. She reached out to me, asked me to apply. And if I had written my dream job description, it would be what I'm doing now because it's this perfect combination of my 30 years in tech combined with my lived experience as a person with a disability to work with our enterprise customers to make the world more inclusive for people like me.
Hey, thank you so much, Laurie. We're really fortunate to have you here, and thank you for sharing more about yourself. And really, now let's just open it up to the floor. If anyone has any questions, we'd love to hear them. Daryl.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Hi, Laurie. It's good to see you. So many companies use Microsoft products. Are there any lesser known accessibility features or new features that you can think of that people should be aware of?
Sure. There's so many to choose from. But one that I love, because I love to tell the product story behind it, is sign language view in Teams. This is a great example. So at Microsoft, let me back up for a moment. We very intentionally bring people with lived experience into all parts of our business, but specifically on our product teams, we have accessibility architects who are tasked with building accessibility into our products during the design phase of the product development lifecycle. We take a build it in, don't bolt it on approach. And many of our architects have a disability, so they're bringing their own lived experience into the product design. And sign language view is a perfect example. One of our accessibility architects on the Teams team is deaf and uses a sign language interpreter. He joined a call. There are 100 people on the call. Everyone's got their cameras on. He's paging through, trying to find his interpreter to pin her. And now he's missed the first couple of minutes of the meeting. And so now what he can do is specify who his interpreter is in his Teams settings. So anytime she joins him on a call, she's automatically pinned in a large high resolution window on the same spot on the screen every time. So just a great example of why it's important to bring that lived experience into our product making. Another really great feature, of course, we've got live captions in Teams, which you can all turn on for yourselves, and it only turns it on for you, not for the entire meeting. But we also have captions in Windows that I find people aren't aware of. And the really interesting thing about captions, of course, it was built initially for people who are deaf or hard of hearing, but 50% of Americans watch videos with their captions on. And Netflix just published an article talking about how half of all of their viewing hours have captions turned on. And I think this is a great example of when we build with the disability community, everyone benefits. And then the last thing I'll leave you with for this question is Windows plus U. If you click your Windows key and your U key, that's going to take you directly to all of the accessibility settings that are available in Windows. So I invite you to all go check those out. You may find some that you'll benefit from, even if you don't have a disability.
That's awesome. Thank you. They're really great features. Thank you for letting me know about them.
A recent study by EY explored the power of Gen AI in improving accessibility, specifically highlighting the role of tools like Microsoft 365 Copilot for individuals with disabilities or who are neurodivergent. Can you walk us through some of the key findings and, more broadly, how you see technology helping to remove barriers?
Mhm. Yeah, so this was an amazing study. So as you mentioned, we partnered with EY to do a study to measure the impact of Copilot on employees who identify as disabled or neurodivergent, and the results were astounding. 91% of respondents see Copilot as an assistive technology. 85% believe that it creates an inclusive workplace, and 76% report that it helps them thrive at work. And some of the key drivers, the first one was that it removes barriers. And if you think about like my disability specifically, I can't take notes during a call like this. I can't type on a traditional keyboard. And I also can't use speech to text because I've got my microphone turned on. And so I would have to remember what everyone said, find time during my day to dictate my notes and hope I remembered everything. And it was quite stressful and time consuming. But now with Teams meeting recap, it's an absolute game changer for me. The second one, of course, we've seen this in other studies, but it improves productivity. And if you think of someone who is neurodivergent, who is sending an email to their leadership team, and they are very worried about the tone and what they're saying, and is it the right level, and they may sit on that email for a couple of days before sending it, using Copilot to help draft those emails can really help increase productivity, particularly for people who are neurodivergent or disabled. And then the last one is that it enhances meaning. It enables people to take on work that drives more meaning for them and for their organization. And as part of this study, we had we had 500 quotes that were recorded as part of it. But one that really resonated with me and that I think really demonstrates that last point is someone who's neurodivergent who said that they would hesitate or not want to take on certain projects because they were afraid they would fail. And now with Copilot, they feel like they have the tools that they need to support them in taking on these projects, and they're doing that, and they're receiving recognition from their peers and from their leadership team. So that, to me, is the power of Copilot. Another great example is someone who is blind, who now can create beautiful professional looking PowerPoint presentations without a sighted assistant. So I've got loads and loads of use cases for how people with disabilities are leveraging Copilot, but it's really more than any other assistive technology that I've ever seen or used. It truly does level the playing field for people with disabilities.
That is awesome. Such great news with Copilot.
Thanks, Laurie. That's really cool. I actually didn't realize how much Copilot was actually affecting people with disabilities. So that's really cool. I do have a question. So I think one of the things that we've seen is some of the biggest barriers isn't disability itself. I think it's an assumptions others kind of make around that. But I would love to hear from you. What are some of the biggest misconceptions you've seen kind of shattered thanks to technology?
And I think that's a great point, Michael. It really does. And I don't think it's ill intention, but people make assumptions about what people with disabilities can do rather than asking them or just letting them do their jobs. I think there's this perception that I can't do the same job that you can do simply because I don't have hand function in my case, or someone who's blind or someone who's deaf. And that's just not true. There's so much assistive technology now that we all can leverage. I gave a couple of examples, but more examples. Our disability policy advisor here at Microsoft is dyslexic, and you can imagine in her role, she reads a lot of long, complex documents every day. And she can use Copilot to summarize the documents, simplify the language. One of our blog writers, who's a brilliant writer, is dyslexic, and she has difficulty getting started if she's looking at a blank Word document. So she'll use Copilot to generate that first draft. But even beyond Copilot, as Jesse mentioned at the beginning, is 70 and probably higher, more like 75% of disabilities are non-apparent. So we are sitting beside colleagues, we're working with customers every day who have disabilities that we aren't aware of. You think of someone who's hard of hearing or someone who's neurodivergent. You may not know that at all. And they're using assistive technologies that you aren't aware of, things like Dictate or Read Aloud or Immersive Reader to help them do their job. So, I think, and especially now with generative AI, we have so much more opportunity to build inclusive experiences for everyone. It's becoming even less of a barrier. So I think it's just really important to not make assumptions. And that's why sessions like this are so important, so that we're all learning from each other.
Absolutely. Dictate is probably one of those like hidden features I've seen. Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Laurie, just on a personal note, I've seen you just build such a great platform here for accessibility, and just doing some quick searches. I've just seen how engaged and how much demand there is for the work that you're doing. And just curious for you personally, why is it important for you to tell your story and really speak out for disability rights?
We've come a long way, but we have a long way to go. And I think often we don't want to talk about accessibility because we don't want to talk about disability because we get uncomfortable and we're afraid we're going to say the wrong thing. And we probably are at some point, and that's okay. I'm disabled and I'll probably say the wrong thing at some point. And it's just a learning opportunity for all of us. We should all have a growth mindset and want to learn and know more. And I think it's so important to talk about it because the more we know, the more we understand, and the more comfortable we get having these conversations. And when we get really comfortable, then we start figuring out how we can incorporate accessibility, with our customers or our colleagues. So that's why I think it's so important to just talk openly about it and create a safe space for other people to do the same.
Laurie, I do have one more question for you. I know that the disability community faces disproportionate unemployment. So, at the recent Ability Summit, I believe it was one thing that stood out was accessible technology powered by people with disabilities. How has hiring people with disabilities strengthened Microsoft products and the broader culture of innovation we have?
Mhm. Great question. Yes, people with disabilities are 2 times as likely to be unemployed, or the unemployment rate is 2 times higher for people with disabilities than it is for people without disabilities. And I mentioned earlier, we've got accessibility architects with lived experience, which helps us build more accessible products, which empower more people around the world who use our products. But also, we want to have diverse perspectives. Um, we don't want to all be the same. We'd create really boring products that way. But if you think even outside product making, when we've got folks in marketing who need to be thinking about is our marketing accessible? Is it inclusive? On our procurement team, we've got folks who, if we're bringing on a vendor that provides some sort of software, is that software accessible? We've got folks in, of course, engineering, but our sales folks, it's important for them to have these conversations with our customers to empower our customers to build accessible products and services. But also, if you want creative problem solvers on your team, hire someone with a disability. We have to be creative just to get out the door in the morning. And we're also early adopters of tech because we know how much we're going to benefit from it. So we are the users of the products that we're making.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing, Laurie.
This is awesome. And I love, Lori, how you talk about accessibility and make it so relevant to our everyday lives here at Microsoft. As we wrap up, what message would you leave us with on how we as individuals and as a company can create more inclusive environments and and better leverage technology to drive equal access and opportunity for all?
I would say be curious. I'm going to steal an analogy from my colleague who says, be 8 years old. When we're 8 years old, we'll ask any question. We aren't, concerned about what people think. We just want to know and we're curious. And then we're 38 and we get all awkward and weird and we don't want to talk about things or ask questions again because we're afraid we're going to say the wrong thing. But I think sessions like this are super important. Educating ourselves on accessibility and disability. Microsoft has great accessibility fundamentals training that's free for everyone to take. At Microsoft, accessibility training is mandatory for every single employee because regardless of whether you work directly on accessibility or not, we want everyone to understand why it's important to us, why it's important to our customers. So the more we can learn, the more we can educate ourselves, and the more we can have these conversations, the better the world is going to be for everyone. So I would challenge you to think about how you can incorporate accessibility into each of your roles. We all have an opportunity to do that. Even if it's just taking it back to your team and raising awareness within your team or starting that conversation with a customer, whatever our roles are, we've got the opportunity to think about how we can make the world more accessible in what we do every day.
Thank you, Laurie. And two-part question just to close us out here. First off, if a customer is listening to this and they work with Microsoft today, is there any way that and they want to learn more from us or work with you or others? What should they do and how should they best engage with the
Mhm.
Microsoft team? And then secondly, are there any resources that you're able to share with us that folks could start digging into who are not able to attend the session live?
Mhm. Yes. So if you want to reach out to me or a subject matter expert on our team, you can go to aka.ms/ask GCAP. And then if you want to learn more about accessibility at Microsoft or resources that are available, you can go to microsoft.com/accessibility.
Thank you so much, Laurie. And for everyone listening, we will also put in the body of this post a number of different resources that you're able to dig into. So that's our session today. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We hope that this is just the beginning of a much larger conversation. Happy Global Accessibility Awareness Day. Please spread the message, start a conversation, and reflect how you can incorporate accessibility into your everyday life, into your roles, into every part of the work that you're doing.